Pigweed here. Today we review an ale and discuss why are we so fat? Hello and welcome to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crow Hill. Good evening, Crow Hill.
Good evening, Pigweed.
And why is my glass empty and what is on you?
Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm going to have to spring something on you. But what is on my mind is, a little while ago I watched this interesting video of a scene in New York from the 1920s.
Yeah.
There's this movie of people walking down the street.
And that's all it is.
That's all it is.
It's just people walking down the street.
And when you look at it, suddenly you notice none of them are fat.
I don't mean not fat. I mean not even
a little fat.
Not even 5% fat.
Yeah.
And so beautifully dressed.
Yes.
And I mean, even like the toughie on the street kind of a guy.
Yeah.
Even he looks good.
Yeah. And then you fast forward to something like Woodstock.
Yes. Well, we did the Woodstock show and watched the PBS.
Right. Yeah. And
I was just like, again, I'm not saying there's no obese fat asses there. I'm saying there's nobody. It's panning through crowds.
Yeah. And
nobody.
Almost all of them are in amazing shape compared to what we see nowadays.
And there was no diet culture.
Right.
There was no fitness culture.
Right.
There were no obsessive gym workouts.
Yeah. You didn't go buy Slim Fast at the grocery store.
Slim Fast.
Yeah.
The best-selling diet books were coming off.
Yeah.
I mean,
there was no Jane Fonda doing workout videos.
By the 60s, they had diet pills, which were just straight up amphetamines, and that was kind of weird. But there were chubby people who wanted to lose weight, but by and large, nothing like the numbers we're about to discuss.
That's right. And I remember growing up, I spent most of my young life as a kid at the pool, and nobody was fat.
Do you remember that?
There were a few fat people, a few, but not a lot. I mean,
certainly not kids.
No.
All right, so the question
what happened?
Is, what is going on?
Yes, why are we all fat now?
What have we done? So is it what we're doing? Is it what we're eating? Is it what we're thinking?
Yeah.
Let's get into that. But first, we have to get into what we're drinking.
Yeah. So I had to hide this one from you because you're not going to be happy with me.
Bud Light.
Because it's a Belgian. And so now the reason I bought this
skinny bottle.
Yeah, skinny bottle. It's 11.2 ounces because it's a stupid European beer. But the reason I got this is I was over visiting one of the Crowhill clan.
Yeah.
And drank a Mad Elf out of his refrigerator, and I wanted to replace it.
Been sitting there since Christmas?
Because that's a seasonal, right? So I wanted to replace it, and I went to the liquor store, and of course you can't get a Mad Elf because that's seasonal. So I was talking to the guy there, and he said, "Try this." He said this beer has a 100 rating on Beer Advocate or whatever. Well. So that's my question. Does this beer deserve a 100 rating?
It's not a Belgian style. It's a Belgian beer.
Yes, it's a Belgian beer. And it's...
I think I poured that a little hard.
St. Bernardus. And it's 11.2 ounces at dumbass.
In what towel?
10%.
Okay.
So it's a little on the powerful side. But, yeah, the question is, does this beer deserve a
complex taste? We're getting some bittersweet finish. Ideal partner for rich beef. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Robust head, ivory color. Was the robust head, but it's a dark beer.
It is not ivory. That's not an ivory color. It's like a copper or something.
No, the head.
Oh, the head. The head is all right. So the question is
I may have had some 90s. Can't say I've had a 100.
This is a 100, so give it a go.
Well, can't even get in there because I'm effed up by 4.
It definitely has a malty sweetness to it.
Yeah, and I also suspect, I haven't been able to get in here properly, but my dislike for Belgians is that strong Belgian-y yeast, which I'm guessing comes in the golden ales without the heavy sweetness and malty backbone. I don't think that yeasty flavor that I disapprove of is really going to make its way through this puppy.
Well, I get it a little bit, but not anywhere near as strongly as you get it in the lighter golden Belgians. Yeah. Sure, that's right. But this one is I like it. I mean, I had one yesterday.
I
wouldn't give it 100.
Oh, yeah.
It's I like it. It's good, but it's expensive, and I wouldn't give it 100.
Ooh.
What do you think?
I wouldn't rate it above a Dragon's Milk or a what are these things called?
Oh yeah, the Goose Island
Bourbon County Stout. But boy, oh boy, that's nice.
It is nice. I mean, I don't want to diss it. It's a nice beer. I'm not sure I'd give it 100.
Okay, but I'm gonna look. But it's an odd summer beer at 95 degrees. But a lot of people don't worry about that. They drink what they want to drink anytime year round.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a seasonal guy. I'm kind of a guy thinking that Christmas time.
Yeah, so I think maybe we need to get some of these and set them aside for a couple of years, put them in the cellar and see what happens.
Right, but it's not a hot 10%. It's not like it needs to cool down for a year before you can drink it like the Dogfish Head 120s are almost undrinkable.
Yeah, you got to let them
less
go.
than a year.
You got to let them go. Yeah.
But very nice, very nice.
All right.
I can't imagine the calories and carbs in here. I've been working on a low carb diet.
Have you?
I know this isn't helping at all.
Are you eating a lot of eggs?
Meat, eggs, and cheese. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's the thing is, it's not a difficult diet. Counting carbs is easier than counting calories as long as you realize the variety. There's no variety.
Mm-hmm.
You're just eating meat, cheese, and carbs, and if you're Jordan Peterson, the variety is even more limited.
Yeah, if you're Jordan Peterson, you're just eating steak and drinking water. Which
I do.
I love steak, but I think that would kill me.
I do want to talk about the carnivore diet at some point, but he's not. It's not the carnivore diet is varied.
Yeah. Yeah, the carnivore diet, you eat chicken and you eat fish and
eggs are okay too. Yeah. He's not even eating chicken. There are two types of meat. So there's I don't know what it is, like cattle, elk, antelope, whatever, or like one so pigs and are different. So he won't even go in that category.
Wow.
He's just steak, and I guess some antelope came across his.
So I heard him say that he tried to branch out into wild caught salmon.
Yeah.
And he didn't like it, and he went back to just steak.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, that's hard.
Well, he apparently had a lot of physical issues.
Yeah.
And he did the elimination diet, so got rid of everything but steak. And has been doing it for 5 years. So somebody's like, all right, I got to know.
That sounds like... Go ahead.
But Jordan, I got to know. What do you put on your steak? What is your favorite seasoning or...
yeah.
What do you say?
Nothing.
Salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper.
So that's your variety? You can't even, some, exotic spices?
Yeah.
No?
So
wake up in the morning.
This sounds like the kind of thing that some husband would give as a lame excuse to his wife. I'm sorry, honey. All I can eat is steak.
Right. He's like, her casseroles are terrible.
Yeah. Right.
And he's like, honey, it's nothing against you.
Yeah. I'm sorry. This is all I can eat. All I can eat is steak. It's going to be. It's going to be steak, and I got to cook it.
So, do you have any facts on this so-called obesity epidemic?
Well, yeah.
That would suggest that this is that we weren't just cherry picking the skinnies out of our videos.
Yeah. So approximately 42.4% of U.S. adults were classified as obese in 2017 to 2018.
Lordy.
42.4.
So here, let me look at my BMI chart so we can talk about what exactly that means. So, let's just take a guy 5'10", who is 170. He would still fall in the healthy range.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I am 5'10" and 170.
Okay.
Right? I would like to get down to 160, but I am 170 right now.
But you're only one block away from overweight, and then 210. So they're going to give you 40 pounds.
Wow, 210? I can't imagine being 210.
Is obese, not overweight. Overweight is just 180.
Okay.
So that's the little range there. So we were talking about
obese.
Obese.
I'd have to be 210 to be obese.
We're talking about 40 pounds overweight.
I didn't realize I had that much runway.
So 40. So that's so. I just wanted to get the numbers. So what we mean by obese is 40 pounds.
Wow.
I'm seeing 40 pounds all day, every day.
Every single place I go, I'm seeing 40 pounds.
I'm seeing 40s left and right.
Yeah, I was several places today and just seeing a bunch of fatties. Yeah.
And 80s, sure.
Yeah.
They're there also. But during Woodstock here, we're talking about, 1% super fat.
And 14%?
And 14%.
The thing is, I grew up in that time, and I don't remember 14% of people being fat.
Well, this would be in the 10 to 30 pounds overweight. So that would just be a little chunky.
Well, no, because this is obese is the next one.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You're saying you don't remember a bunch of overweights. So this is not these are overweights.
It says obesity here. Severe. The blue is severe, and the pink is just.
Yeah, well,
I'm not sure they're using the same numbers.
No. Let's look at the BMI chart.
Yeah, because I spent my childhood at the pool, and I don't remember seeing. Now, okay, there's somewhat of a self-selection process going on, because if you're really fat, maybe you don't go to the pool.
Yeah, yeah, and you're not checking out the fat chicks.
Right.
You're looking right past them.
I'm probably not paying as much attention to them. That's right.
Well, probably not, but still, we've got just. Whatever the numbers are, we're from 1970. We've got 15 to over 40 in how many years?
Oh, wow. Yeah, so that's
75.
like 30 years.
Okay.
40 years. 40 years.
40 years.
And so we've gone from 14% to 42%. So what in the world happened? Did we all stop walking between then?
I saw this cartoon. It was a freak show.
Yeah.
And it had the fat guy, the bearded lady,
right,
and the tattooed woman, and the ringmaster was just like, "Sorry, guys,
it's not interesting anymore." That's what we've got everywhere.
Anywhere you go,
that's right.
It's hilarious. All right, so let's see. Let's start with number one here. Are we eating too much and exercising too little? So
okay.
These people at Woodstock weren't exercising focused.
No, they weren't going to the gym,
and they also weren't portion controlling.
Right.
It was just like, well, no, you big fat slob, you don't eat that much food.
Yeah.
Right. My grandfather had a barber shop with this old timey Coke machine.
Okay.
And we just thought it was the funnest thing in the world to get those little 8-ounce hard bottles that came out there, and they're like, this was a serving size.
Yeah, right.
So so
think about McDonald's. The hamburger, a Coke, and fries. Nowadays, nobody would go get a hamburger, a Coke, and fries. You got to get a Big Mac and a milkshake and supersize the fries, So to some extent, yes, we're eating larger portions.
I remember that there was you remember Julia Childs, I think, who was the big love of cooking, came out, that one of the more recent updated editions.
Yeah.
Yes, they changed portions. So what was four servings is now 3 servings.
Oh.
So even in that sense,
we are eating more.
So we are eating more. That's true.
Okay.
Yes,
and also, we're exercising less because, for one thing, fewer people are working jobs that require physical exertion.
But no, more people are consciously exercising. Fewer people are just getting more exercise in their daily life routine.
Because most of us just sit on our butts in front of a computer. And back in the old days, somebody who might be a plumber or a mason or a carpenter.
Well, we still have all of those things, but we have all these fake sit on your ass jobs.
Yes. Yeah.
And now also, so you're in Europe and you're in a village and you have a very small refrigerator.
Yeah.
And there's not processed foods, so you walk to the market every day. But that's not nearly what exercise people tell you you to do. But does that suffice? If you're walking a quarter mile with a bag and getting today's food, does that constitute enough calorie burning to offset what we're talking about?
Well, you're doing something. You're doing something. But I think also, I think part of it also is just the serving sizes in Europe are smaller. You know, when people marvel at the French because the French eat high-fat, rich food, and they don't really get all that fat.
The Italians are eating all that pasta.
Right. And apparently it's because they eat small portions. You know, they go and they get a little croissant and a cup of coffee. And, here we are, we're eating this enormous plate full of food. So certainly serving sizes.
So if I go to France and start looking for the Golden Corral.
The all-you-can-eat place.
Yeah.
That's right.
Not likely to find it.
Probably not.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Filled with fat Americans, if it was. So,
there was this guy, Dr. Peter Attia, who was talking about the standard American diet. And there's a lot of criticism. You can hear a lot of criticism about the food pyramid and, what we eat and everything else.
All right, so that was, are we eating too much and exercising too little? We're going to go yes and yes.
Yes.
And so now I would ask about big agriculture, the FDA, and the food pyramid.
Right.
And
was that some big conspiracy and all that?
It was right. Was it a conspiracy or just victims of our own success? But go ahead, Dr. Attia.
What he said was when they first, earlier in the country, we had this problem where some people simply weren't getting enough calories. There were people who were just undernourished.
Yes, or calorie deficient.
Yes. And they said, okay, we have a business plan here. The business plan is we need to get more quantity. Yeah. We need to be able to produce calories at scale.
Yes.
Lots of calories because people are undernourished. 2, it can't cost too much because a lot of the people who are undernourished are poor. We can't say, go out and buy a steak. And then 3, it has to be non-perishable and portable. So it has to be something that can be moved around and can sit on the shelf for a little while.
Yeah.
And it has to taste good because people have to want to eat it.
Right. So.
And his reaction to those 4 things is, job well done. Like we did all these things. Right. We are putting out calories like you wouldn't believe. We have quantity. It's cheap as can be. You can go buy a honey bun at the 7-Eleven for $1. It has to be non-perishable. We have things sitting around on the shelf for months and months, and it has to taste good. I mean, everything tastes good, right? So, mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished.
But on the other hand, I guess it's kind of like I've been rewatching Band of Brothers, right?
Yeah.
And here you are in Bastogne, and somebody offers you a cigarette. It's like there's bombs falling all over the place. There's bullets whizzing by. The cigarette is like the smallest of your worries. Right? It's like, absolutely, I'll smoke a cigarette.
Yeah. I mean, they came in your rations.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, that is the least of your worries is a cigarette. And I think, in a way, the concept of, okay, this isn't the healthiest diet. We're trying to solve a bigger problem.
What is the potential downside? Yeah, I mean, I hear you. We could have problems with that, but we're solving problem A right now.
Yeah, we're solving the problem that people don't have enough to eat.
Yes, I mean, it's kind of a high priority here.
Yes, yeah. So we want to make sure everybody has enough to eat. So from that perspective, it was job well done. I read this article a while ago where somebody was saying that the McDonald's double cheeseburger was the ultimate feat of industrialized society. Because I don't know if you remember, but it was a few years ago, you could get a McDonald's double cheeseburger for $1.
Right.
And this guy was saying that the amount of nutrition and calories packed into that sandwich you could get for $1 is like an amazing feat. Nothing in the history of the planet has been anything like that we could produce something like that you could have $1 and go buy this thing.
Skeptoid did an episode on fast food phobia where he broke down, when you go in there, you get it's the sugary drink and the pile of fries, but that the sandwich itself, you could eat that 3 times a day, have a low calorie intake, and very nutritionally balanced.
Yeah.
So he's like, it ain't the fast food. It's what you're ordering. And
from a certain perspective, although we have to get into the question of like all the chemicals and things that are in the food. But yes, from a big picture perspective, if you ate a double cheeseburger 3 times a day and that's all you ate, you'd probably be thin.
Yeah. So the Super Size Me documentary that made the guy famous, exactly. And he passed away recently, not from that episode, was from the supersizing.
Exactly. It was from drinking a 32-ounce soda.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, and you are right. And the point what you were mischaracterizing was that it was fast food itself.
Right.
Was the problem.
And
no, it's because you were supersizing everything.
Yeah, and it's sugar. We need to talk about sugar at some point. Yeah. But yeah, so I think the reason that we started mass producing food was because we wanted to feed everybody, and mission accomplished, but they didn't seem to be looking too far ahead in terms of how healthy this was, and they didn't adjust and change course as, okay, mission accomplished, maybe now it's time to reevaluate and decide, okay, should we shift in a slightly different direction?
Yes, so I was watching this guy say that there's a lot of food in the United States that is not permitted to be sold in Europe.
Yes, that's
so
very
they have
interesting.
already because we have both identified these unhealthy things.
Yeah.
In Europe, they said you can't put it in food anymore, and here, for whatever reason,
right? Because we're more interested in corporate profits.
And he's like not using this dye or preservative or something. He says the Fruit Loops won't look as bright.
Yeah.
And so, people don't want that. People want the bright-looking Fruit Loops, and that's what this chemical does.
Yeah.
And, it also makes people fat, and it also, but we'll fight that in court, and we'll figure that out 8 years from now.
Yeah, and, I often wonder...
But the guy was saying, he says, and it would cost pennies on the box.
Right.
Now, of course, if you're selling 3 million boxes, the pennies add up, but whatever. I mean, come on.
Right.
Literally, pennies would make the difference of having slightly less shiny cereals, which are apparently summer sugar. Breakfast sugary cereals are just terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, you shouldn't eat those.
At all.
Don't eat them.
Ever.
So another thing, though, that is not just obesity. There are a lot of other things that seem to be health problems that might relate to our food. Like, for example, there's been a severe decline in testosterone. There's been a severe decline in sperm count. Uh-huh. There's been a severe increase in other sorts of health issues that a lot of people tie directly to the chemicals we put in our food, the plastics that we wrap them in, all this other kind of stuff. So there's... this issue is way bigger than just obesity.
Yes, in France they have sort of like a. Dang it! I can never think of the name of the beer purity law.
Reinheitsgebot or something.
Limits the ingredients. So France has that for French bread, and it really is just flour, water, salt, and yeast. Yeah. That's it.
Right.
So my wife likes to make sandwiches with bakery bread like that, and I said, "Oh, that looks good."
Yeah.
And I picked it up, and I was like, I could hammer some nails with this thing
because it's 3 days old.
So it's just 3 days old.
Yeah.
And I turned around and said, "Well, good. Look, there's some Wonder Bread. That's probably 3 weeks old."
Yeah.
And it was perfectly fine.
Yes.
Is that good?
Soft and smelled good.
Yeah,
and
soft, no green, no nothing.
I mean, in a way, it's good because it can sit on the shelf. You can drive it from Chicago to wherever.
I couldn't possibly ask you to read this entire thing, but can you just try?
This is good old King's Hawaiian. I love King's Hawaiian.
I love King's Hawaiian and. Here. I got dates on here.
2023.
September
of 2023. It still feels pretty soft.
It's super soft.
Still feels soft.
I mean, I would eat it right now, but now now that I'm looking through this and I look at this, so how many?
Thiamine, mononitrate, riboflavin. What have we got? Psychoilluminate, whatever that is. Sodium sorbitan, monostearate. I don't know what these things are.
How many items would you just at a glance? It's at least 10 rows deep.
Yeah. So 15, 20 different items. Like if I've made bread before, and basically bread is flour and sometimes a little bit of sugar and some kind of fat. Sometimes you put an egg in it. Sometimes you put some milk in it. Sometimes you put yeast in it. But that's like it. Maybe some salt, right? But that's bread. You don't need all these other things to make bread at home. You know, we had a bread machine,
which will last 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We had a bread machine, and it was common that we would make a loaf of bread for breakfast, and a fresh loaf. You know, you set the machine, you time it. It would be done like a half an hour before you wake up in the morning.
Ooh, how's that smell?
That was great. You wake up to the smell of freshly baked bread. And then you have this fresh loaf of bread for breakfast. It was fantastic. But I didn't put any of that crazy crap in there. But then you have the question of what's in the wheat.
So they're addressing your 4 things here by putting all that stuff in there.
Exactly. Yes.
And it's still in there. Is there downsides to this?
Well, that's the thing. Do we really know? So a lot of times you find out that this chemical keeps the bread fresh longer, so they stick that chemical in the bread. Do they know what the long-term effect of that chemical is?
Right. I just came across this term, which I love. It's called obesogens.
Okay.
Obesogens are chemicals that directly or indirectly increase fat accumulation and cause obesity by interfering with metabolism and metabolic processes, according to a recent study. Mm-hmm. May also disrupt the hormone system, causing a wide range of health problems, which might include testicle shrinkage. I made that last part.
Oh, okay.
but it seemed likely, so that we have identified this group. But without identifying any specifics, mm-hmm. and this one does that. But it does seem that this has got to be part of it. Part of the issue.
So there are things that we eat that have effects that we're only recently starting to discover. Like, for example, there's a lot of talk about the microbiome in your stomach.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that you eat change your microbiome, which changes how you digest food, which changes whether you're going to be fat or thin. So supposedly...
And also interact with your brain function.
Yes. Supposedly, one treatment for certain kind of diseases is that this sounds horribly gross, and I'm sorry to the listeners, but they take like somebody else's poop and they stick it into your intestines, and it changes your microbiome, and that like can result in big health changes. Because what all the bacteria and viruses and all funguses and everything else growing in your gut have a huge impact on how you process food. But as you said, there's also an influence on your brain in terms of what kind of cravings you have and what foods you want to eat. So all these kinds of things, nobody had any idea what any of this stuff was. Back when they were coming up with the food pyramid and trying to create, food at scale and cheap and non-perishable and everything else, they didn't know about this microbiome stuff and didn't have a clue. So isn't it time to start reevaluating this and say, wait a minute, we should...
Yeah, so they have, apparently, Europe has stricter rules on this, and this is why we tend to be libertarian in certain aspects of regulation and government involvement. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with the FDA, and I'm okay with having the argument would be it's we are able to innovate more,
Mm-hmm.
and get drugs to market and stuff like that way more better, way more better,
Yeah.
than the Europeans.
Yes.
But but they also might be able to clear up their food system better than we do. So you know what I mean? Where does this all fall out?
I know it's hard to draw the line between.
Too much regulation.
Yes, and to what extent should the government be looking out for us, and to what extent should people be looking out for themselves? I'm very sympathetic to that problem. However, I think perhaps in the United States we err on the side of helping the corporations make a lot more money rather than protecting consumers against the corporations.
Right.
And it's nobody is putting a gun to your head and making you eat a Twinkie, but it would be nice. I haven't had a Twinkie in decades, but it would be nice if certain things were prohibited if we knew that they had bad consequences.
Right. Yeah. So what else? So the other big ag problem was so the food pyramid came along in the 90s. Does that seem right?
I think there was one before that, because I remember when I was a kid. I
think I read that, but it seemed to me awfully late.
It does, because when I was a kid, there was this commercial. And unfortunately, I'm cursed with a really good memory for things like this. There was this commercial. It's 4, 4, 3, and 2, the groups of food, best for you. You remember that commercial? And they would go through the different groups of food. And that was the food pyramid I knew back in, the 70s, right? So when people say the 90s, I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, but it can't be the same one, because the food pyramid of the early food pyramid, the grains and breads at the bottom were 6 to 11.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't for 6 of the... Who's eating 11 servings of grain, of carbohydrates?
Right.
A day. And then you worked your way up. And then in 2005... you got the what was called the My Pyramid, which kind of reshuffled things around, and then 2011 you got My Plate, which was more of a square, and it sort of monkeyed with the amounts, but 6 to 11. If you're having a muffin and toast for breakfast, a sandwich on bread, then dinner comes with some more bread and
right.
It would be hard to get to 11. It's barely hard. It's hard to get to 6.
So the way I remember, this song still rings in my head, because that's one of the curses I have in life. And it was 4 vegetables, 4 cereals, 3 meats, and 2 treats, like ice cream and that sort of thing. And
I am so far away from even that, much less the later, crazier...
I know, yeah. 11 things of bread. Well,
all right, so this where the conspiracy comes in is the Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, so the conspiracy is that they were trying to promote business interests above health, and that they knew that what they were promoting was going to promote diabetes, obesity, and other kinds of health problems. And they did it anyway. That's the story. That the department, and this is the sort of thing, I don't like to believe this kind of stuff, but this is the sort of thing that really bugs you, is when you think the people who are in charge are more interested in their kickbacks and greasing pockets,
knowingly poisoning people.
And right.
And frankly, it does happen all the time. It's terrible.
It is terrible.
The DuPont has spoiled some water supply somewhere, and then they would rather, cover it up than make restitution.
And lie to people about it. Right, yeah. So the food pyramid was a scheme to help big agriculture rather than something to try to help people be more healthy, which is pretty disgusting.
That's gross.
But you should trust the government.
Well,
just ask an American Indian.
so he calls it sad, Peter Attia, the standard American diet, and he said it is terrible. Yeah. You just need, and he's got me just worried to death. Well, now right now doing my low carb, I'm not eating hardly anything that's processed. It's just meat and eggs and I guess cheese is
so
processed.
So what do you eat for lunch? If you're just eating meat, eggs, and cheese, what do you eat for lunch?
No bean chili.
Okay.
Nothing for breakfast.
Right.
And some meat and cheese, and a couple of hard-boiled eggs.
Right.
And some meat and cheese for dinner.
Yeah.
It's tasty, and it's better than it's more fun to count carbs than count calories. But your range of food, and exactly. I ate 3 pieces of fruit every day. Yeah. Now I realize 1 banana is like double the amount of carbs you should have an entire day.
Wow.
Like, wow. So really just cut all that. I saw Andrew Tate the other day. He's like, stop eating fruit. It's just sugar. Eat green vegetables, tons of them. Oh. And I was like, now I'm looking at this, I'm like, kind of what is going on here?
So one thing that this Dr. Peter Attia was talking about, basically, you should only eat things around the outside of the grocery store.
That is an interesting point. I mean, it can be the whole system can be so complicated. Yeah. But boy, that just really uncomplicates everything.
It makes it simple because what's the stuff around the outside?
Yeah.
You've got the fruits and vegetables. You've got the meats. You've got the dairy. You got the cheeses, and that's like it. You know?
Right.
So don't eat any of the stuff in cans or in boxes or any of that kind of stuff. Eat the stuff around the outside of the grocery store.
So I looked at. I'm thinking, all right. So I'm making my no bean chili.
Yeah.
And I'm going, well, I'm not stewing my own tomatoes.
Right.
So I looked at it, and you know what? It really is all of the things that you would that you would want. And maybe salt or something like that. It didn't seem like it was filled with a bunch of preservatives, which it's in a can. Does it need?
So that's something that I wonder about when I hear these kinds of things, and I say
processed and ultra processed foods.
Yeah, exactly. So when I get a can of beans, is a can of beans processed or not? I mean, right? You're like, do I have to buy the dry beans and soak them and go through all that nonsense?
Just to say that it's not been processed. So it's been processed in that sense, but really when you look on it, you're not going to see it. There might be a little bit of salt in there.
Yeah.
Added, but it is, a can of corn.
It seems like, actually I've heard a can of corn is more processed than you'd like, but that's the thing That's where it gets difficult for me.
I guess it's time. I guess it's time to look at labels a little bit more.
But I think there's got to be a difference between a can of beans and a can of corn and a bag of Doritos.
No. The can of corn. I checked earlier. Can of corn is corn, water, and some sugar,
right,
and some salt. No, I didn't actually look at the degree to which there's sugar in there. Make it taste a little bit better, but. Yep. It isn't like this bag of chips, a bag of buns with 7,000
ingredients in there. Yeah.
So.
And still fresh. What's the date on that again?
So
September 2023.
11 months.
Right.
And fresh as a daisy.
Yeah. Yeah, so don't eat that kind of stuff. But then what about exercise, right? Like, supposedly we spend way more time sitting nowadays than people used to spend.
There's so much sitting going on. I guess even when you were a downtown guy, there was you didn't drive and park underneath the building and then get inside the elevator.
No.
Right? So at least the old school commute of walking to a bus stop and walking from the bus stop to your job and then walking up a couple flights of stairs.
Well, that's
right? So you're not cranking out the.
Yeah, but that's another thing.
The minutes,
walking upstairs, elevators and escalators. You know, they get us to be pretty sedentary. We're not walking anymore. We're just riding the thing.
Wally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So also, we're sitting in front of computers, which isn't good. How do you combat all that? To some extent, we need to change what we're eating. We need to stop eating ultra-processed food. We need to stop eating so many calories. We need to stop eating empty calories. But just in terms of getting more activity and movement in your day,
Yeah. Okay. So what about fat positivity and fat influencers, and basically defining down deviancy, like saying that
that's
this
exactly
is
what it is, though. I mean, that's what it is.
Yes, it's like you know how you get rid of crime. You stop arresting people,
exactly,
and you say, or you just say this thing isn't a crime anymore, and and then you look at the stats and you go, hey, there's no more crime. So the one way of addressing obesity is just saying fat people aren't fat anymore.
Right. We'll just eliminate the category of overweight and obese, and we've solved the problem.
And you're a terrible person for even bringing it up.
Exactly. Yes.
So here we had by the way, in New York holds Fat Beach Day to create accepting environment for plus size. So Fat Beach Days are appearing across the United States, aiming to create spaces for the plus size community. We're going through something culturally that is impacting us every day on an individual level and a systemic level.
Yeah, and then you know what?
Okay, so what does that mean?
That means the Chinese are quaking in their boots. that we're trying to make sure that everybody who's fat
doesn't ever get their feelings hurt.
Right. Yeah, the Chinese are really afraid of that.
Yeah,
that's my first take.
So that's certainly not helping. Fat shame. I don't agree with people pointing at fat people and insulting them.
No.
Okay, so I agree with whatever. But your fake idea of what fat shaming is to ask somebody to not take up 2 airplane seats.
Yeah, and also, I'm sorry, there should be a certain amount of shame. In some things, like
being a criminal. Or like drug addicts. Yeah, it's like none of these. So we're getting rid of shame. The shaming, like you're a bad person for shaming this person for being a terrible person.
Here's my prediction. Pretty soon we're gonna have smelly days. Like we're no longer gonna be able to shame somebody because they didn't shower and they stink.
Yes. Or that the idea of shaming itself. That's what I'm saying. There's shaming.
Yeah.
If you disagree with anybody's life choices, you are the problem.
Yeah, if you're a fat slob, or if you're a stinky slob, or if you're just a slob, or if you wear awful clothes, or you walk around in public wearing dirty stuff, we can't hold up any standard at all.
No,
any standard is judgmental and bad, and that is
and this falls into the purview of the problem of not even being worried about it anymore, and in fact being celebrated by having your own fat influencers. However, these fat influencers only live about a year or so, you got to move from influencer to influencer.
Although what we've moved from the problem of the food to the problem of people being responsible for people being responsible for their, and I think honestly, to some extent, a lot of people who are fat, to some extent, it's not. I would say that in 2024, somebody who's 30 pounds overweight does not have as much guilt or responsibility as somebody in 1974 who was 30 pounds overweight.
Because there's something wrong with your food.
Yes, because the food has changed, the environment has changed. So many things environmentally have changed that, to some extent, the people who are overweight are a victim rather than Now, still, having said that,
if you're 200 pounds,
if you're overweight, you need work on it.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, but still, I still recognize the idea that to some extent we're pushing sugar on people. We're pushing bad food on people. We're pushing chemicals on people. We're killing their microbiome. We're doing all this other crazy stuff, which is causing people to be fat. And to some extent, there's, you're a victim. But also, come on, you can do something about it.
All right, can I get to this study here?
Okay.
The government spent $740,000 in 2012 and $770,000. So this is a total of $1.5 million over the course of 2 years for this study. Why lesbians tend to be overweight.
Oh. Yeah.
So here you go. It is now well established that women of minority sexual orientation are disproportionately affected by the obesity epidemic. Let me stop there.
Okay.
So you're affected by, it's like somebody coughing on you with a COVID.
Right.
You're walking down the street.
Yeah. Somebody just like pushed fat on you. Yeah.
Yes. No. So, okay. Affected by the obesity epidemic, passive tense.
Yes.
With nearly 3/4 of adult lesbians overweight or obese, compared to half of heterosexual women. And then just to flip the script here a little bit, in contrast, heterosexual males are nearly double the risk compared to gay males of obesity. So there's something going on. So I'm also blaming lesbians for part of the rise in fat women.
See, I think maybe they have the causality backwards. Maybe obesity causes lesbianism.
Well, now that you brought that up, do you mind if I take a swipe at feminism?
Okay, I think I would not mind that at all.
Let's wrap this up a little bit here. So feminism has unshackled women from the confines of strict gender roles imposed by the patriarchy. Right? We can agree on that. What have they done with this freedom?
Okay.
Well, half are either lesbians, fake men, or 300 pounds, or some mixed combination of the three.
Okay.
Most of the other half are deluded, insufferable Karens and wannabe girl bosses.
Yeah.
Thank you, feminism, for ruining women.
Okay.
Is that harsh? Did I go too far?
Well, I mean, not for me, but
I didn't make any friends. but I just want to. All of the factors here, I just want to throw in one last factor that might have something to do with American obesity.
Okay.
Now, why the men feel like they? I guess the men are so promiscuous that they need to stay fit because they're always playing the field, while two fat women just hook up and get, or two lesbians just hook up together and get fat together.
Yeah, I don't really.
Why do you need I'm done. $1.5 million for that? Solved it.
It seems as if, I go to the gym 3 times a week, and
you suck.
There are a lot more fat women than there are fat men at my gym.
All right.
Since I knew we were going to do this topic, I've been paying attention.
Very good.
There are a lot more fat women than fat men.
Now, how about fit women to fat women?
Not a lot of fit women, honestly. Okay. I mean, it's kind of shocking. I mean, this is
the last time I wasn't there that long ago, and all of the fit women were taping, were making videos of themselves working out.
Gosh, there's none of those at my gym. That to me is so ridiculous. It's like, here I am, I'm taping myself to post on wherever so that thousands of people can see me. But how dare you notice that?
But if any man actually stares at me while I'm working out,
God, that's insulting.
It's a patriarchy or something.
So anyway, at my gym, generally speaking, the men are more fit than the women.
Okay.
And there's a very small percentage of fit women at my gym. Which I mean, you'd expect. You go to the gym, you expect to see some fit women. Not so much at my gym, and. So, but anyway, I mean, God bless them. They're trying to do better.
Yes, I agree.
They're overweight and they're at the gym. That's where they should be. Yeah. Okay, so good.
Just don't eat a honey bun on your way home.
Yes,
I think that's what the problem is.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that we've run this thing into the ground.
I got one more thing. Did I mention this, We did. The outside of the restaurants or outside of the grocery store.
Yeah.
So here's the takeaway. Here's the main takeaway. Try to buy more stuff from the outside of the grocery store.
Yes, and look at the ingredients box, and if it's so long that you can't even read it, bring your reading glasses like I do, and just say, I don't need to eat that.
I don't need to eat something that has all those ingredients in it. That's
Too much.
Make it relatively simple.
All right,
here we go.
All right.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.